Oh hi! Ah, Christmas. It's that time of year where the goodness of humanity shines through, carols are bouncing trippingly off the tongue, the soft snow falls from the bejeweled sky above, and holy shit, what is that? It's like if a Christmas tree became sentient and ate an ugly dog and then threw up on itself. How the Grinch Stole Christmas is a book written for children, but that doesn't mean that the story is childish. One of my greatest pet peeves is children singing. But another one of my pet peeves is this mentality that children's or young adult literature is somehow not as important or relevant as more literary books written for adults. Of course, that goes into my pet theory that literary is just a synonym for boring. You could also say that I'm going overboard with discussing and criticizing a 50-page book with less than 2,000 words, but I just want to let you know, you asked for this. But if you're anything like me, and pray that you're not, you're probably more familiar with the 1966 animated television special than you are with the book. But we'll get there. The book has its own joy, and not just because of the wordplay from Dr. Seuss, but also because of his semi-surrealist illustrations and the moral that he weaves throughout it. So in this video, let's talk about the book as a piece of literature, and then how the first two adaptations approached the source material. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas was published in 1957, only a few months after Dr. Seuss's hugely popular book meant to teach children to read, The Cat in the Hat. But this story cleverly uses language. The very first page introduces us to the fiction of this world. Every Who down in Whoville like Christmas a lot. It's every Who, not some, not many, every single one. And in a fantasy, especially one aimed at children, we have to accept that premise. The characters are caricatures, the Who's unlike the ones that we know from Horton Hears a Who, which, what if this is some sort of shared universe? Oh, the things I can think. But let's table that for the time being. Unlike in Horton, the Who's in this story are vaguely human-like beings who exist mainly for plot progression. That's not a criticism per se. I'm sure there could be a whole novel written about the intricacies of Who society and the socio-economic problems that exist because of their love of Christmas and rejection of the Who religion. Whodism. That's what the religion would be called, Whodism. But this is very much about the Grinch and his character. Brilliantly, as you turn the page from the beginning, we immediately contrast the opening stanza by saying, "But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not." This is when we get the first image of the Grinch, and look at it. His red eyes bulge, he's trying to put his hand into his flab like a bunch of fleshy pockets. His body shape has clearly been modeled after mine. He's drawn to look not just unhappy, but downright mean. Permanent crease lines are in his forehead, the only color that's used is red for his eyes, which gives this sense of evil to the Grinch. Much like a comic book or graphic novel, Seuss is guiding the reader to exactly where he wants you to look. The text always travels left to right as it takes you on that journey. But just before you get to that text is the Grinch in all his Grinchy glory. It's a perfect marriage between text and art. One last thing before we leave this page, and no, I'm not going to go page by page through this, but one last thing I want to focus on is a line that is very iconic. When describing why the Grinch hates Christmas so much, the narrator doesn't have a great reason. In fact, they state that they don't know. But then at the end, mention a theory that they have, which is, but I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. And this is going to be the crux of my argument. This is written in a passive voice. The narrator isn't sure. He couches his statement to may have been. They don't know for sure. This isn't fact. The Grinch's heart may have been 2 sizes too small. More than that, I also think that this is not meant to be taken as literal truth, but as metaphor. The Grinch's heart is not literally 2 sizes too small, but his humanity certainly has shrunk. The normal caring and empathy of this humanoid has been reduced by at least 2. This story was written by a then 53-year-old man, which maybe coincidentally, I don't think it's coincidentally, is exactly how old the Grinch is. He states, "Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how?" This is a character who has been beaten down by society. Yes, he hates the Who's, which isn't a great character trait, but it's not because of anything they've done to him specifically. Nor is it because of race, gender, sexuality, or any type of phobia. We are given specific reasons. It's because of the toys they open on Christmas morning, it's because of the excessive noise, and it's because of the gluttony and feasting. The Grinch is not filled with hate because of the content of the Who's character, but rather they choose to succumb to these yearly traditions and not celebrate Christmas for its real purpose. Now that doesn't absolve the Grinch. There should be a bit of agency reassigned to him. He is choosing to live with hate instead of finding a rational way to deal with his feelings. The Grinch has crossed that line between irascible old coot to asshole. Like, I know people who dislike Christmas for many reasons, but they don't actively try to ruin other people's fun. Interestingly, the book never really gets into what Christmas should be about. There's subtext to what it should be, but it's never made explicit about what the Grinch thinks should be done instead. The Grinch doesn't really seem like the type of guy, can I say guy? I'm gonna say guy. He doesn't seem like the type of guy who, even if the Who's were quieter, didn't sing, and had a small meal, that he would automatically be happy. He wants to remove everything that is even partially related to Christmas and to cause pain. That's when the Grinch gets his wonderful, awful idea and proceeds to make a costume of Santa Claus, dress his dog up as a reindeer, and then go ahead and steal every single present in Whoville. The majority of the book is about the intricate ways that the Grinch steals everything, and in particular, the house of Cindy Lou Who. And come on, he lies to this poor little girl. He's really showing his evilness. Although, to be fair, if she thinks the Grinch looks anything like the real Santa Claus, she's kind of stupid. But this entire section is filled with the lilting rhymes of Dr. Seuss, like this one in particular, as he's just finished lying to Cindy Lou Who. And his fib fooled the child, then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. What's always impressed me with Dr. Seuss, and why I think it's incredibly hard to get his type of rhyming and lyricism exactly right, is that the first 3 lines are 12 syllables and the last line is 11. And yet it doesn't feel like it breaks the lilting nature of it. In fact, his whole writing style, I recently discovered, is called anapestic tetrameter. He wrote most of his books in this style, and it also sounds like something your doctor would diagnose you with after years of poor life choices. I'm sorry, Kyle, you have anapestic tetrameter. You know it better as Seussiphilus. What this rhyming meter means is that as you're speaking, there is constantly 2 weak or unstressed syllables, followed by 1 strong one. This is unlike something like Shakespeare, who wrote primarily in iambic pentameter, where it's unstressed and then stressed, which comes across as la-boom, 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 la-boom. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So what Seuss does is to have 2 unstressed and then a stressed. I find that really fascinating, and it takes precision because we, as humans, naturally default to speaking like Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter. So to focus your energies on getting it exactly right in anapestic tetrameter takes a lot of skill. The ending of the story is this revelation for our protagonist-antagonist. He has all the presents at the top of Mount Crumpet. He's going to push them over the edge and destroy them all, but he wants to hear the Who's crying, which again, complete sociopath. He wants his internal hurt to be spread to those around him. But the magic of this story is how the Who's get together and sing anyway. On this page, which explodes with red, the passion that they still have for Christmas, even without the things, is palpable. And the true moral comes out when the Grinch states, maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. His heart grows, metaphorically, and he wants to be reintegrated into society again, and this is always something that has rung a bit hollow for me. I get the message that's being conveyed, and it's one that I agree with. Christmas, or whatever high holiday you celebrate, even birthdays, are more than just presents. It's family and friendship, and above all, community that make those times special. Remove the trinkets and tassels and toys, and you can still have great value in those gatherings. But a character who has seemingly rejected society and has withdrawn themselves doesn't reintegrate after a sudden realization. It takes time, and it takes patience on both that person and others to make them feel safe and wanted in that society. In many ways, the Grinch is a great analogy for a lot of the segregated feelings we're feeling in society today. Feelings of isolation are exacerbated by social media. A lot of those feelings are being felt by young men who perceive society passing them by. They see themselves having gotten a raw deal. The internet has made it easy to withdraw to safe spaces. The effort to build real friendships and connections takes time and patience. So they withdraw themselves and really only find respite in forums or groups that preach hatred, because it's easier to blame others for what you find awful about yourself than it is to truly work at becoming a better person. Which again, fairly may be asking more of a children's book than is realistic, but the ending still is rushed, and there's somebody who agrees with me. Dr. Seuss. He's quoted as saying, "I got hung up getting the Grinch out of the mess. I got into a situation where I sounded like a second-rate preacher or some biblical truism. Finally, in desperation, without making any statement whatever, I showed the Grinch and the Who's together at the table and made a pun of the Grinch carving the roast beast. I had gone through thousands of religious choices, and then, after 3 months, it came out like that. Which is unfortunate because the setup is so good. The Grinch, consumed by hate, commits a grandiose crime and then finds out that it had zero impact. To have him trumpet back down the hill and partake in the festivities just feels off. He seems to be cured. The last page, his eyes are closed so as not to show the red shade that they are, and the creases seem to be gone from his head. He's smiling, he's so happy. He was literally changed in an instant. At least Ebenezer Scrooge, another Christmas icon, was visited by 3 ghosts and shown exactly the causes of his actions and how he could change. The Grinch was changed by a song. And this was not shown in the book, but that song is All-Star. Do you think that's an overanalysis? It might be, but it is how I feel. So let's move on to the first adaptation. The book was immensely popular, and Dr. Seuss was pretty protective on his work being produced for film or TV, but he happened to be friends with Chuck Jones. Chuck Jones is the master who directed many of the Warner Brothers cartoons: Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, you know those ones. And for the most part, it is a faithful adaptation of the source material, but there is a problem right from the very beginning. I can read the entire book in less than 15 minutes. The animated special needed to fill 26. So Chuck Jones created an extended sequence with Max the dog and the Grinch sledding down the mountain into Whoville, which works well as comedy. Although I suppose it depends on whether or not you find the old Warner Brothers cartoons funny. The non-racist ones, I mean. Because the Grinch cartoon has many of the same beats which are drawn very directly from vaudeville and early silent films. For me, it absolutely works, but for others, I can see why it would feel very old-fashioned nowadays. The other addition that the cartoon makes is the addition of songs, which Dr. Seuss wrote himself. Everyone pretends they know how to sing the fake Latin verses of the Who's singing while holding hands, but the killer song is, of course, You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. That song is sung by Thurl Ravenscroft, and I think his parents were overreaching with that name, but that is his real name. You might know him better for a bunch of Disney animated roles, but also, he was the voice of Tony the Tiger of Frosted Flakes for many years. The songs, combined with the mastery of Chuck Jones and the inspired hiring of Boris Karloff, you know, Frankenstein, to narrate is why I still think it holds up. And yes, I actually mean Boris Karloff played Frankenstein's monster, so no comments correcting me. Certain lines are slightly altered. There's also a few verses added, specifically detailing the types of toys that the Who's are going to get. But again, this is essentially the book translated into an animated short with minimal changes made. For many years, I didn't feel like it was truly Christmas until I saw this special on TV. That's less of a thing now with on-demand and nobody watching live TV anymore unless you're older than the Grinch is. It's a good adaptation. The visual elements lift the source material in many ways. It makes the Grinch green, which added to the cultural zeitgeist because the book shows him only in black and white. It's still hampered by the ending, but that's also the criticism of the source material. The second adaptation was a live-action version of the Grinch directed by Ron Howard and starring Jim Carrey. And apparently, I need to state from the very beginning something that might be controversial to a certain age demographic. I don't like this movie very much. I find Jim Carrey's performance too grating to be considered enjoyable. But the real issue is that to make sure that this movie could be stretched to feature length, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be added. We already saw that the small amount of padding for the animated version made it run to around 26 minutes. This movie clocks in at 1 hour and 44 minutes. And in stretching this material to more than it conceivably needs to be, the basic story needs to be changed. I guess for me, it comes down to the fact that I think that the film focuses on the least interesting part of what the story could be. Going back to the book, the entire arc is a character who has given up on Christmas and hates it for all its perceived capitalistic trappings. Then, by seeing how Christmas can be honored and celebrated even without materialistic things, he has a change of heart, metaphorically, and learns to love Christmas again. If the movie had expanded and focused more on the admitted botched ending of the original story and really delved into how these Who's can change the Grinch for the better, that would be interesting. But that's also criticizing the movie for what it isn't instead of for what it is. The movie changes the core concept of learning that Christmas can be more than getting stuff, and focuses more on the theme that excluding people based on differences is wrong. Not that I disagree with the message, but it seems a bit weird for the adaptation. It hits the main points of the original story for sure. The narrated bits are done brilliantly by Anthony Hopkins of all people, and then we get filler, filler. The Grinch is shown to be just a dirty, in the literal sense, being who seems to love rolling around and sometimes eating trash. The character's changed from the figure who is outside of this idyllic town of Whoville, whether by his own choice or not, that's never explicitly stated in the original story, and instead is this prankster who disguises himself to play tricks on unsuspecting targets. He's given a backstory where he was a young kid brought up by possible lesbians, which I should promote is my new band. Possible Lesbians, playing at Coachella later this year. Next year. Sometime in the future. He has feelings for a girl. He makes her a present. He tries shaving his face. People make fun of him for his attempt at a gift and his cut up face. He now hates Christmas and swears vengeance. If anything, I think that this makes the ending even worse, because in the original story, you can make the claim that the Grinch is forced to see that his point of view is wrong. Remember, the original story explicitly states that they don't know why the Grinch hates Christmas, but they think it's because his heart is 2 sizes too small, metaphorically. And so when he sees that materialism isn't driving the Who's, he has to reassess his worldview. I mean, if anything, the Who's are shown to be completely materialistic in this movie, especially in the opening scenes as we see all the Who's rushing around and throwing money and credit cards at anything that resembles a gift. So I bring up this question in this movie: why would he change his mind? He's seeking vengeance because of a wrong that was committed to him years ago. Why would a bunch of people singing a song cause you to reassess your feelings about them? Especially now that one of the people that picked on you is now the mayor and isn't exactly a great guy. Good thing they cast Jeffrey Tambor, also apparently not a great guy. I mean, the screenwriters were in between a rock and a hard place. Most everyone is familiar with the story. I assume they were told that they couldn't take too many liberties with it. But by giving a dramatic backstory to this character and then still resolving it in the same way, it just comes across as nonsensical. They also expand the role of Cindy Lou Who, and yet still, she's not really a character but a plot device. It's her dad, Lou Who, I know, who sums up the theme of the movie best. He says to the mayor, "I'm glad he took our presents. You can't hurt Christmas, Mr. Mayor, because it isn't about the gifts or the contest or the fancy lights. That's what Cindy's been trying to tell everyone, and me. I don't need anything more for Christmas than this right here, my family." So it's certainly more than the book, which doesn't ever really explain who society or any specific character. Plus, at the very least, it shows them struggling with Christmas and how to celebrate it properly. Ron Howard has made many films I've really loved, but this one is such a miss for me because I think he completely misunderstands both what the story is about and the sensibilities of Dr. Seuss. What this really is a star vehicle for Jim Carrey, who said it himself on a recent episode of Bill Maher. His problem is that he makes the wrong choices but commits completely. And that's certainly true here. So, what is the best version? The book has wonderful illustrations and it's fun reciting the rhymes. The short animated version is almost verbatim the book, but you get the combination of Boris Karloff's amazing voice, the genius direction of Chuck Jones, and the great songs that Dr. Seuss wrote specifically for it. And the live action version is there. I say it's a toss-up between the book and the short cartoon. But today, when this video is released, a new adaptation is coming out, a full-length animated feature film. It's made by Illumination Entertainment, which has made the Despicable Me films, but also other Seuss properties like Horton Hears a Who and The Lorax. The marquee name is Benedict Cumberbatch, who is the voice of the Grinch. I have not seen it yet, as I just said, it comes out today, metaphorically, so let's finish talking about the Grinch next week. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you read the book growing up? What do you love or hate about Dr. Seuss? Which Grinch version is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. So, next Thursday, whether it rains or it snows, or possibly hurricanes as far as anyone knows, I bid you adieu and hope to see you next week, unless you're a troll or some hate-filled freak. Because if you are, then your brakes you should pump. Get down on your knees and kiss my right rump. It was an attempt. See you next week.